Welcome to the Gruber Morning Show. This is our weekly EV podcast. I'm Pete Gruber.
I'm Mark Schaffner. Good morning, everyone. Glad to have you here.
And as always, we want to thank everybody that joins us, participates, comments, you're what make this show so interesting and possible. The background, again, is artificial intelligence generated. This time we asked for a futuristic news studio. And it comes up with some surprising things. The best part is it's spelling things correctly. Notice news is spelled correctly.
I did. We are the news channel today.
Yeah. We're waiting, I guess, a half a minute or so for TikTok to come live. So we've got a question up there that we can catch in the meantime.
Yeah, on YouTube, Wayne Levitt has joined us again today. He says, we can count on Tesla to get the job done correctly. Most others are just playing with going total EV.
It does seem that way because they're in and out and
Yeah.
Building a plant, maybe not building a plant, but yeah, Tesla is 100% committed.
Yeah, it's Tesla has built its entire reputation and everything on the battery electric vehicle. We'll get more into that later today too.
We will, yes. And then Wayne also says Tesla stocks going to the moon and then to Mars when we get a Tesla bot or two each in an autonomous car. That'd be cool. Our planet won't know what hit us. Beautiful, easy lifestyle coming our way, maybe. And then he laughs.
Wayne, yeah, I know we were after the Industrial Revolution, people were saying the same thing. You have a dishwasher, wash your dishes. You have a clothes washer, wash your clothes. You have a vacuum cleaner so you don't have to beat out your rugs. What are we going to do with all of our time?
That's the topic actually in our podcast tomorrow, the AI podcast at 10 o'clock.
Oh, yeah.
On Wednesday. We touched on it, but we had that power outage and everything went dark in the studio here, so we never completed. But it's the UBI concept, universal, I can't think of what it stands for now. Basic income. Okay, basic and UBI, something that a number of people have been talking about, especially Elon. But the whole point here is once we have all of this automation, all these machines, all these robots doing our jobs, basically, we're going to have a whole load of free time. What are we going to do with that? And of course, there's an age of abundance that is predicted comes along with this.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it'll be interesting tomorrow. Join us if you get a chance. Obertowski from YouTube says, hello, Mr. Gruber. Thanks for joining us. He also says, let's be honest, what you see now is a trailing short squeeze on Tesla stock. Okay, good point. The only reason it's going up is to squeeze short positions.
Well, there might be some of that, but Tesla put out on their investor news just about an hour ago now. They had 444,000 auto deliveries in the second quarter of this year.
Yeah.
And that was above expectations on Wall Street. They produced 411,000. And this is quite a bit stronger than the 380,000 or so that they produced in the first quarter and delivered. So anytime there's surprising good news, you're going to have potential legs on a rally.
And I would be surprised, and I'm sure there are indexes that would tell us what the short positions are, what the percentages are, but it would seem to me to be a foolish stock to short based on its history and its trajectory. I mean, you'd have to be a masochist to short Tesla stock repeatedly.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. When you see these spikes at times, that could be the short sellers just bailing. They, of course, have to buy shares in order to take or to liquidate their positions because they lose money as the stock goes up.
Right. And you're going to, I could see why people would be shorting Tesla ahead of this report, thinking that it's going to be another down report. Tesla's going to tank. I'm going to be able to buy cheap. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, they panic as soon as the news comes out. And so the stock spikes, which is exactly what it did this morning.
Yeah. Stephen and I did that one time many years ago. We took a short position anticipating bad earnings, and just the opposite happened. And we ended up taking long positions along with it to balance. So we took straddle positions. And basically, no matter where the stock went, it didn't go anywhere for us. It just protected our position until we were comfortable to bail out of one or the other.
Well, that's one way that that's how those straddle positions work, and those are the kind of positions that work better based on the movement of stock than it is based on whether it goes up or down.
Yeah. We have an image to pop up here, Jesse. If you could do that for us, it's called manual trans. And this one had me chuckling even last week when we began to talk about the fact that only 18% of the U.S. population still knows how to drive a manual transmission car. When we were in Europe, the choices were clearly both. This time around, we were hard pressed to find any manual transmission cars. They just seem to be, going away. But the other part of this, with that image being up, apparently some car thieves, millennials, they claim, and this is a Supercar Blondie post. She says, luckily, if your car is ever stolen by millennials, because this will probably happen. They didn't know how to drive the car.
And on a car that powerful, you'd think just mash the gas and slam it into gear.
yeah, that would be an interesting way to do it.
It would be.
Yeah.
Sorry, you guys do have a millennial that knows how to drive manual.
Well,
Hi, I'm
yes.
that millennial.
Well, and we have a millennial, Aaron, that doesn't know how to drive manual too.
True.
I don't want to talk about it.
All right, moving right along here. The second half of this podcast at 11 o'clock is going to go into the Roadster podcast. And what we're going to talk about there is collectible cars, collectible EVs. What are they? How do you position? What do we predict will be a collectible car? And we feel the Tesla Roadster has already moved into some collectible territory. But here's an interesting picture, VIN number 8, Jesse, if we can bring that up. We had a customer come by a couple of weeks ago, and he said, I actually bought a signature Model S, VIN number 8. I mean, we're talking about a single-digit VIN.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And when we heard the backstory on this, it's a beautiful car, by the way, well preserved. It was the previous owner took flawless care of it. He bought this off Bring a Trailer, which is a auction site that is notorious for oftentimes low prices. They don't let you set a reasonable reserve on your car. You only have 7 days or 10 days to sell the car, so there's an expiration date. This Signature 8 Model S, which in my estimation should have been a collectible car, or at least identified as a car to put in a collection,
Sure.
sold for $21,000.
That's so cheap.
A 2012, VIN number 8 car. He put another 7 in it or so. It turns out that the air conditioning compressor was defective. That's what we repaired. And then he had windows tinted, which makes it even look more sinister in that black. But if you're interested in EV car valuation and our predictions, where the valuations are going to go and what's collectible and not, that second half is going to be an interesting one for you. But in the meantime, anybody that can buy a signature Model S for a price like this, I think needs to put it away, tuck it away, and just bank on it at some point becoming collectible.
Yeah, if those signature ones are going for this, man, you can get yourself a great deal on a non-pedigreed Model S. And these are cars that, sure, they might be a little bit older age-wise, but we've seen over time that it's they don't age the same as their gasoline counterparts.
And as our energy costs continue to spiral upwards, and both fossil fuel and the electrical costs, a car like this has free supercharging. These types of cars are going to be in demand at some point, so there's a second reason for picking up a first-generation Model S. But anyway, one more image, Jesse, just to prove the VIN, and you can see what the VIN tag looks like. It's VIN 8-2. And it's always fun to look at the VIN tags on these cars, whether they're a founder's car, whether a signature car. And you can see a whole bunch of zeros to the left of that 8.
Wow, and I think that S means signature.
It does, yes.
And so, wow, that's... Usually you have to go to Barrett-Jackson or something like that in order to see a signature car with that low of a number.
The rest of the backstory on this car that we just looked at, VIN number 8, is Sold for $21,000, needed a compressor, probably not a big deal. It was donated to the Peterson Museum. So someone that had taken flawless care of this car decided to take advantage of maybe a tax write-off. And
Sure.
and then Peterson put it out on Bring a Trailer, and that's why it sold. All right, got some more questions up there.
First is YouTube, Obertowski again. Look at Nvidia. It also squeezes shorts. I can't even imagine if you had bought Nvidia when it was at, when the company was valued at $1.5 trillion, thinking, okay, this is way oversold, and or it's way too high, and then they the next thing you know, Nvidia's worth $3 trillion. Yeah, that's it. That one's kind of funny money valuations as well.
Instagram, expel_Rick says, yo. And then TikTok, Minix says, hi, hello, what's up? Well, we're having fun with the podcast. And then Facebook, the Phoenix Electric Vehicle Association is chiming in. There's a great group of people here locally that are very passionate about clean energy and EVs.
Yeah, it looks like it's our friend Jim Stack as well.
Yeah. And he says, the best info on shifting is electric motors have such great RPM range, and they don't have to or need a transmission.
I actually had to look up that continuously variable transmission, the CVT. Some of these vehicles will have that, but he's right. Many of these electric vehicles, it's just a motor that sends its power straight to the axle and wheels.
Direct coupled, yeah. All right, another headline. X's community notes make quick work of misleading Tesla fire report. Apparently, on Twitter, X, they seem to be doing some good for the electric vehicle community. Since Elon's taken over the platform, he's heavily promoted the use of community notes to fact-check everyone, even himself. This has become particularly useful recently after a CBS News Sacramento publishing of a rather misleading report about a Tesla fire in California. The fire that was reported was actually in front of a Tesla store on Granite Drive in Rockland, California. There's a service center there, a Tesla service center that we work with often. While no injuries were reported, the blaze was significant enough to damage 2 parked Tesla vehicles outside the store. But apparently that's not how this was reported. By CBS Sacramento, the report said a couple of Teslas caught fire in front of a dealership in Rockland on Wednesday. Viewer video captures some of the flames and smoke. Sounds like, some clickbait right there.
Absolutely. It sounds like you got a couple of Teslas spontaneously catching fire, but that's not the whole story, is it?
No. The whole story is, and one of the viewers pointed it out, a truck exhaust caught fire outside the Tesla dealership, and the fire subsequently spread and damaged the 2 Tesla cars. The Tesla cars were not responsible for the fire, nor did they catch fire by themselves. So this is quite common, actually, but there were numerous user interpretations of this story, of course. And, another instance where Teslas just randomly burst into flames. And then, of course, others chimed in and they began to echo anti-EV talking points, while some even called for Teslas to be banned because of the alleged fire risks.
Well, I mean, sure. 2 Teslas caught fire, therefore we must ban Teslas.
The millions of them out there globally, yes.
It's almost like saying, my Ford got caught in a wildfire, therefore we must ban all Fords from the road.
Very close to that, yes. And we have a video out there, folks, on our YouTube channel. I use that search button these days often because we have 1,300 or 1,400 videos. and it's difficult to find. But the one that's out there that you might find interesting is the average number of fires attributed to ICE type vehicles and EVs, and the ratio is well in favor of the ICE vehicles being the biggest problem.
Oh, yeah.
Regarding catching fire.
The last time we talked about this, it was something like 1.4% of all ICE vehicles end up catching fire at some point in their lifetime. And for electric vehicles, we have now close to a 16-year history. About 0.1 or 0.2% of all electric vehicles. It's in between that. Roughly a 10-to-1 ratio in favor of electric vehicles being the safer ones.
Mm-hmm. We've got a Facebook comment here from Disa J. Jacob. He says, I love your show. My name is Tongshin Jacob from Nigeria. I am an electrical electronics student from Polytechnic. Well, thank you for joining us. You're a long ways away, and yeah, we're having fun talking about the technical aspects of the EV revolution.
And good evening to you in Nigeria. Love having you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
On Instagram, I am Colaj. Says, what's up, gentlemen? Showing love from the Deer Valley area.
Oh, okay. Here locally. That's
Yeah.
Very close to us. We are in Deer Valley. In fact, we're just south of Deer Valley Air Park. Obertowski says, stock market value does not matter for well-established companies. That 3 trillion Nvidia value is only on PAP. So the so-called bubble is only short squeeze before entering recession, followed by market crash. Obertowski has a lot of investment advice in that comment.
There absolutely is, and I'm not going to really comment on it because I'm not a professional investor. I have the advice, although I do not own Nvidia stock.
Yeah, my son does, and I've regretted not getting into it when he did, of course. And then finally, Highlander's joining us. He says, very interesting indeed. Highlander is one of our regulars on all of our podcasts, actually. Thanks for being there. All right, so another topic here. If we can bring up a picture called CT-Franz. And we've got a picture here of Franz von Holzhausen standing in front of a Cybertruck. And they apparently are recalling most of the Cybertrucks in the United States over issues with their windshield wipers and exterior trim. My main takeaway here was it's so much less costly when you can do an over-the-air update to resolve issues with a vehicle. But unfortunately, something like this, and it looks like we're heading for a windshield wiper motor replacement, upgrading it to a larger, beefier type product. And of course, the driver that goes with it, which there's some electronics in there.
You know, last week I remember us talking about this a little bit and saying, hey, you know, where's the wind tunnel testing?
Yeah.
But one thing that I wanted to make sure to mention is we got to remember Tesla pioneered the over-the-air software update and actually pioneered the over-the-air recall fix as well.
Mm-hmm.
I do remember seeing an article on the mainstream press about 8 years ago where it was talking about how these electric cars could update themselves, could make themselves better or more powerful or have longer range just by changing the software in the car. And it was such a novel idea. It was hard to even believe at the time.
Mm-hmm. For those of you unfamiliar with Franz von Holzhausen, in the picture there, he has been he's been running the design team there at Tesla for a decade or more, and instrumental in the design of the Tesla Model S. And he just emailed me yesterday, actually, and he said he was also instrumental in some of the design for the 2.5 Roadster. So Franz has been there a long time. For those of you interested in meeting him, he's going to be at the U.S. Tesla Takeover in San Luis Obispo the middle of this month. And you'll get a chance to meet him, greet him, and talk to him.
Mm-hmm. On YouTube, Mustafa Elgamel says, yesterday a clip was posted about a micro-dwelling on a Tesla Model S. It was awesome. It can revive hundreds of old Model S's for a second life. It would be interesting to follow the journey of the build.
I laugh because that's our project, one of our engineers' projects. Let's
Yes.
put it that way.
Yes.
We have a very talented engineer that is working for Gruber Motor Company or the Gruber companies. And yes, he did the very thing that you're describing. Took a Tesla Model S, it was collision damaged, hacked off all of the metal on it on the top surface,
Mm-hmm.
and then using an ultralight plywood with holes drilled in it to make it even lighter, created a recreational vehicle on this Model S. And you're right, we are now working on a script actually to intrigue people with this very notion that you could take collision damaged Model S's and turn them into either tiny homes or recreational vehicles.
It's exciting to see, and I'm sure that we will be posting more video clips over time as the build goes.
So stay tuned. And thanks for pointing that out, Mustafa. All right. The another article here is, and this is the headline: Tesla unveils plan for first hydrogen-powered vehicle, calling it the Model H. Makes sense, right?
Yeah, Model H for
Yeah.
hydrogen.
By 2026. And the way the article reads is like this: Elon Musk has always been known for his bold moves, and his latest revelation is no exception. Tesla is shifting gears from electric vehicles to a groundbreaking new fuel for their upcoming Model H. This never before seen fuel promises to combine combustion and zero emissions, revolutionizing the automotive industry once again. The Tesla Model H, expected to debut in 2026, will feature a hydrogen fuel cell powertrain, a first for the company. Despite Musk's past criticisms of hydrogen technology, this shift comes in response to production challenges and competition pressure. The Model H is anticipated to have impressive performance, including acceleration from 0 to 60 in just 1.2 seconds,
Wow.
and a range of 280 miles on a single charge.
There's a couple of things about this article that made me think this just doesn't sound real.
But
First,
before we go there,
okay.
you're saying a number of magazines have picked up this article and are regurgitating this content.
I've seen. I went to do some research on this, and found probably a half a dozen or more articles in online magazines and stuff like that. Essentially, it's the same thing, and while it's not anything as high a profile as Inside EVs or Teslarati or Electric, there's some legitimate publications that seem to be picking this one up. Now, he says this never before seen fuel. That's my first clue that there might be a problem here.
Yeah.
Hydrogen and hydrogen fuel cells has been around in the modern vehicles quite a bit longer than electric cars have been.
Mhm.
Go to city buses or commercial fleets, and you'll find that the hydrogen fuel cell technology has been out there for somewhere between 30 and 40 years. So I did some digging. And there's a YouTube channel called Elon TV. That's all one word. And they published a video, incidentally, on April 1st of 2022. And it is titled April Fool's Joke, Pioneering the Future, Elon Musk's Vision for Hydrogen-Powered Cars. And in this April Fool's video, there is quite a narrative about Elon announcing the development of a Model H, and that the Model H would be out at that point within 2 years. And they said by 2024. They've extended the 2 years now to 2026. I honestly believe the story originates from this fake video.
All right. So for those of you believing any of this, remember April 1st, and they waited an additional few months, though, to republish that this time. So that made it, I guess, more plausible. But if anyone knows anything otherwise, we'd certainly love to hear from you. But at this point, it looks like a good joke and a good gag.
On YouTube, Mustafa El Gamel has another comment for us. He says, I have a second 200,000 mile Model S 2013. Would love to convert it in the future.
Well, we're going to release a video, I would say within the next couple of weeks or so, that will give a lot more detail about how this project came together, some of the engineering challenges. When you look at this thing, it doesn't have the skins on the outside yet. It is just a frame
Right.
with the bones exposed. But what you see inside there's a toilet, there's a shower, there's a kitchen sink, there's a cooking stove, there's a little couch area, and there's going to be solar on top as well.
And the ceiling will pop up, and across the top there'll be a bed that you can sleep in. So it is a true tiny home, full sleeping area and everything.
And once this comes together, we think that Elon is going to be interested in this contraption. He loves tiny homes, apparently. And what would be more fitting than a tiny home built on one of his original cars?
That is an interesting concept.
TikTok, user, boy, a bunch of numbers. I won't read them all. He says, are you ready for the out-of-warranty Model 3s and Ys? We are always ready for a challenge. And yes, we're looking forward to a number of those cars coming off warranty so that we can begin to dive into them and find ways to keep them on the road.
It's going to be an interesting transition. They start really en masse coming off a warranty around the end of this year and then into next year. After that, we're getting ready for the tidal wave.
Mm-hmm. So there was another article that Jim Farley's been in the news quite a bit lately, and the headline goes like this: Confessions from a lifelong petrol head. I love electric vehicles, and it has nothing to do with politics. And he says that without apologies to Goodfellas, as far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a car guy. The rumble of a V8 feels like a soundtrack of my life. He says, I spent the past 40 years developing new vehicles, from Camrys and Scions at Toyota to F-150s, Raptors, Broncos, and the Transits here at Ford Motor Company, where my grandfather worked for Henry himself. To this day, I spent many weekends racing Mustangs or wrenching on my '73 Bronco. So, as a lifelong petrol head, he was surprised that he would fall in love with EVs.
Yeah, and his take is similar to my take. I don't feel like I fit the typical profile, stereotype of somebody who loves EVs. I tend to be conservative socially and fiscally. I got an EV because I like what it does for my pocketbook as much as anything.
Yeah.
Much lower maintenance costs, much lower fuel costs. I laugh as I drive by the gas station when it gets to $5 a gallon.
Yeah.
It's a good. It's good for us, and it happens to be good for the environment. I like that a lot too, but I do not call myself an environmentalist by any means. I think Jim Farley's the same way.
Good point. So one final thing that we have for you is, and there's probably going to be quite a bit more information emerging about this transition, but it turns out Rimac is shifting from electric supercars to robotaxis. And you remember Rimac makes that $2 million plus super EV car.
Oh, yeah. I'll never forget the Navara. They set world records. The fastest car of any kind driving in reverse. It's somewhere around 175 miles an hour in reverse.
That was one of my favorites, too.
And but the supercar market is a pretty small addressable market. I could see the idea of them going, again, very futuristic into something like robotaxis. If they've got the EV part down, which they obviously do, the technology for that self-driving is out there. It's not a huge leap to think that they could do that.
And of course, the revenue generating opportunity for owners that purchase a robotaxi. You can, basically use it as a commuter car and then do the, the leasing during off hours and do the Turo type thing where your car now is actually making money for you without you needing to be chauffeuring anybody around.
Exactly. It's a revenue generator all by itself without the need for labor.
So it looks like we've hit our half-hour mark. We are going to be live again in a half an hour at 11 o'clock, and this will be the Tesla Roadster podcast. And the theme today is going to be the Tesla Roadster going collectible. What's the trajectory? What are the early signs that we're seeing that would indicate that? And what would make a car go collectible in such a short period of time, which is also part of the discussion. Usually it takes cars decades or let's say a manufacturer's car or a brand, decades to go collectible. But we think that we're going to circumvent that with the Tesla Roadster, and there are a number of reasons for that, which we'll discuss.
Look forward to seeing you guys in a half hour.